So to start off with, we have oblique. Let me get it. There. You can read that, right? We have an oblique cabinet. So we need to go over those two. Oblique cavalier. Well, here, let's start like this. First of all, like this. I'm just going to draw one cube. So if I draw, so it's 2 squares by 2 squares. Both of them are going to start off like that. Difference has to do with that math happens. How many of you have taken geometry? Whenever we do oblique, we go back at an angle. We go back at 45. So we have this, which is 1 square. Going back at an angle, that's not one. How many squares is that? Not half. It's a special number. This is your 590 triangle. So you remember it's 1, 1, radical, which is about 1.4. Doesn't look right, is it? On our isometric paper, it looked perfect because each line that we went on, they were all equal. Didn't matter which line we used. On here, if I take square is not equal to that square. Now, based on our rule says squares, how many squares should I go back? 2 squares, right? Okay. So I'm going to go back 2 squares. Now, 2.8, right? But I'm following our rule, so I'm going to go back 2 squares diagonally. Now, just like what a cube should look like, but that follows our rule. Follows the rule. Here our depth equals our width and our height. If I'm using 2 squares for my block, then I use 2. But it doesn't look like I did my depth. My depth is actually 2.8 units instead of just 2 units. 2 units, 1, 2, would it be about there someplace? That's no longer on my grid, is it? So then I'm not drawing on a grid, and who wants to draw not on a grid? If I'm going to do that, what's the point of even using graph? So that's why we make it look like that. Because I'd rather make it look like that than have. I don't want to have to get out a ruler and measure how long this is and make sure I'm actually going 2 units in that direction. So we don't do this. Okay, well, oblique cabinet, what oblique cabinet is oblique cabinet, we want it to not look like trash. So oblique cabinet, what we do is we say, well, if I take that depth, it's going to look a lot better. So instead of going 2 squares back, I'm only going to go 1 square back. Because 1.4 is closer to 2 than 2.8 is. And it does. To our eyes, that looks better. That looks more like a cube, doesn't it? That's oblique cabinet. Now, throughout the year, you guys are going to have a ask you, what is the difference in oblique cavalier? What's the difference? Do half depth. Oblique here, it would depend on, maybe it only goes back 3 depth, where cavalier goes back 6 depth. So you don't want to put a number to it. So anytime you're asked that, cabinet only goes back half. Okay, you a lot. Between oblique and isometric. Isometric what? They're both 3D. Isometric, what's facing you on the isometric? The corner is you on cavalier or on oblique. What's coming at you? The front, the face. The difference between the two. This one's turned, so the corner's coming at you. Here, that front face is. Going to be asked that a lot. What they are? Every time you say something, so you don't just get to say oblique. Okay, we're going to practice drawing these one time. What we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead. We're going to take this picture from isometric, and we're going to draw it as. Which one would you like to start with, cabinet or cavalier? Whenever we draw our box, it's usually easy to start with the front. So, what's the front of this box? How big? 2 blocks, 3 blocks. So, you always want to use multiples of 2. That way, wherever you do half of your depth, so you always want to use multiples of 2. I want to do 4 by 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The distance back, right? So this goes 2 blocks, 4 squares. So how many squares am I going to actually go back? 2. Okay, so there's my box. Again, I always like starting with one face and then just going from face to face. So I'm going to start with a front face on this one. Yes. And I'll shade these. Trust me, after grading your guys' paper, it's really hard to see some of these figures unshaded. Lines just start melding together and go every which way. And okay, so that's a front face. Whenever I go back 1 block, but I do half distance, so that's only going to be 1 square. I can do the right hand side of that.
It looks better, but still not as good as the others.
Change it again. So stop it, push stop, reset, and then I would move it down, put away from it. Because that's what worked with the green one, is moving it away. Okay, So now I'm going to do this front face. So starting from here, it's up 1 block, so that's 2 squares. It goes over 2 blocks, so that's 4 squares. Down 1 block, so that's over 1 block, so that's 2 squares. Down, and then I connect the bottom. So there's that front face that it connects to. I'm going to do that next. So what I'm doing is I'm doing one face. Some people, the problem with that is that some people get confused whenever you're doing full blocks. So if I just do this face, then I can do like the top. If I do the top goes back 1 block, which is going to be 1 square on cabinet. Then I can do this right hand face. Then this top face. And then I have this one last right hand face and I'm done. What's the difference between this?
Cavalier is going to be
Twice the depth. So instead of going back 4 squares, so I'm going to go back to full depth. So why don't you guys go ahead and try doing the Cavalier? I believe in you. I think you can. I'm going to give you a second. I'm going to go bug Lee real quick, and then I'll come back and I'll draw it in while you guys are working on it. Each color absorbs the light differently. Here. Okay, so let me draw in mine. See if I can beat you. I said last hour I had 15 minutes, least fault. Okay, I'm shading it, but this is what it should look like. To our eye, we all think it looks like trash. It follows the rules. See what happens whenever you follow the rules? You look like trash. Happens whenever I used to record in math class. The students used to take them home and see if they could get me in trouble with their parents. Because I used to say stupid shit all the time. And then I'd post it on YouTube myself. Because... Alright.